No one would ever accuse Big Sills of being a technological sound guy or anything like that. So let me quickly go to my friend Merrill Reese as we get ready for the draft tonight. My friend, thank you for doing this.
Hi, do you hear me?
I got you loud and clear now.
Good.
What's tonight mean to you,
Earlier,
something like this, when you see the draft for the Eagles?
it's fun. I love tonight. I really do. I enjoy the draft. Of course, my job doesn't depend on the draft, fortunately, but I think it's interesting. I love to look at my lad's guide to the NFL draft and watch all the shows. And I watch a lot of college football, Dan, so that makes it meaningful to me.
I got to show you something. I got this from the city of Brooksville, and I got some of the players that signed it. I got Andre Waters, Jerome, Seth, Clyde Simmons signed it. Jim Johnson even signed it. And a couple of my teammates, Mark Carrier. This is an old golf hole advertising in Brooksville for the tournament. And here's the Eagles that showed up this particular year. And I'm going to tie this into the draft here. Clyde Simmons, Seth Joyner, Andre Waters, Keith Jackson were just some of the people that showed up to that event. It must be fun, Merrill, taking a look at the draft like tonight, welcoming in the new Eagle guys.
Oh, it is. It is. I look forward to it every year. But it's very difficult, as you said, to have a feel for what's going on when your team is 22. When your team is top 10 or maybe 11, you can pretty much figure out who 8 or 9 of those 11 players are going to be and where they're going to drop and where the Eagles potentially could trade up if they had to. But when you're standing at 22, I don't care what anybody says, it's really difficult to come close to pinpointing. You can get lucky and you can name positions and areas, but it's really tough to tell what's going to happen 5 hours from now.
How about this, Merrill? I'll get back to the draft in a second. And I saw this kid, St. Brown, sign this contract that's going to average $30 million. I want to show you something on what Devonta Smith did with grass not being greener on the other side and kind of pulling a Cooper Kupp because Kupp took a pay cut. His contract already is outdated. That guy's going to make, in essence, of $30 million a year. The average that Devonta is going to make is 18.4. So over the 3 years, he's putting $36 million on the table because he wanted to be an Eagle. He liked being in the organization. He believes in their future. I think that says a ton about the young man, about the organization, about how they look at him, and how he looks at the Eagles. I mean, 1 week, he's already, the deal's outdated. It's amazing for him to have done something like that without CeeDee Lamb and without Justin Jefferson having their deals done.
Well, he does love the Eagles, and it is a wonderful organization. It really is.
I mean, I think that looks at it really front and center there with what this kid did. All right, let's go here. If you know what, you covering the team, watching the team, not that you have any insight in it, but from what you saw, is there a position that you would like to see them address tonight? Is there something that you think would make this football team better next year, starting in 24?
Yeah, I think so. I think that they have to address now again, all things being equal, because I think the biggest need right now for this team is corner. They need help in the secondary. But if they are unable to move into the spot where they believe they can draft a first round talent, a legitimate first round talent at corner, don't take the position just to fill a need. If for example, there is a great offensive lineman, and this is a deep draft at offensive lineman there, if they can pick somebody who they think can be the next Lane Johnson, don't let them pass.
How about this too? I was pointing this out to people, and you're dead on with the old lineman. They're projecting tonight that maybe 10 offensive linemen, with the kid Guyton from Oklahoma, where Lane did go,
Hmm.
could go in that draft. Think about that for a second. There's 32 picks, 10 are O-linemen, 5 quarterbacks are going to be taken, and 6 wideouts. Inside of 3 positions, Merrill, 21 players are going to be taken between the quarterbacks, wide receivers, and O-linemen. Like you said, you got a couple corners in this draft. Boy, I got to tell you, there was a stat that came out, 64% failure rate when it comes to picking the cornerback position over the last dozen years.
Yeah.
Hardest position, along with quarterback, to evaluate. Me, I land on a position, Merrill, that is going to give me a chance of having an impact player.
See, now the quarterback is out of the Eagles equation, but I will tell you what, I think the best, and I know the way that they're lining up, of course, with Williams and Daniels and May and J.J. McCarthy. I guess those are the front 4. To me, to my eyes, the best quarterback in this draft is Michael Penix.
You know, I saw RG3 break him down and how he looks people off with his eyes and how he sets people up. And it was pretty remarkable how he has adapted. And when you look at, especially a guy, and you know what? This is why I like him and Jaden Daniels. Because if you look at the journeys, like Jalen Hurts' journey, Merrill, they transferred. You know, Jaden transferred from Arizona State to LSU, and Caleb transferred from Penix transferred from Indiana to Washington. And I actually like that. You go through the trials and tribulations, you experience success at a better program with better players around you, and it's a great teaching tool. So that's why I like those 2 guys too. I actually like Michael Penix.
I love him. What I like the most is I used to get a real treat out of standing on the sideline during practice and watch Michael Vick throw. Because when Michael Vick threw, the ball actually made a sound. It hummed. I think Michael Penix Jr. is the greatest spinner of a football that I have seen since Michael Vick.
Wow. Great testament here. All right. Big year for the Georgia kids, don't you think, Merrill, here? I mean, Nolan Smith has to be counted on here now that Hassan Reddick has been moved to New York. Jordan Davis, and I said this to you last time, I think I want to see him in his 34 at the nose. I think that could change a lot of things about how people look at him a little bit. Maybe more of a positive, because I think that's more of his natural position. And I just think, I just showed you the picture of Jerome Brown. I think that kid has an opportunity at being something close to something like that if he lives up to his potential. But a lot of pressure on those young kids and those young players that they've drafted the last 2 years.
Yeah, Jalen Carter too.
Yep. I mean, they've got it. If you think about it, now look, here's to what you just said too, Merrill. Hey, when you got a good football team that's won 25 games, guys aren't just going to walk in and go, "Hey, I'm going to take that guy's gig." I mean, you're going to have to sit behind and you're going to have to learn. I mean, in your opinion right now, is the defense still a concern for you with some of the new faces and some of the things and expectations that people have to have? And should they concentrate on the defensive side in this draft?
No, I don't think so. I think they still have to pick the best player. I don't want to take a corner for the sake of taking a corner when there's an offensive lineman out there who is just better. Heck, I'll tell you something else, and this probably isn't going to happen, but let's just say Brock Bowers slid back to 16.
You did it.
But I love to see Howie move up and take Brock Bowers, because I think he is the next great thing. And I also believe that I love Dallas Goedert, but Dallas Goedert is 29 years old. Zach Ertz was 28 years old when they drafted Dallas Goedert. And even though I love Goedert, it's time to get more quality depth at that position. And in fact, you watch Bowers, he's kind of a flex tight end. Boy, what he would do in that offense.
He reminds me of Travis Kelce, and I'm going to show you something here. I put the list of the best players in the draft, not by position, but the best players. And at the top of my list, I got Brock Bowers sitting there. I think he's the best football player that's in the draft. And the reason I also say that he's probably going to make the biggest impact, Merrill, because in today's NFL, that linebacker position, a lot of the teams around the league, it's not just an Eagle issue. I think it's an NFL issue. Very few teams have a great crew of linebackers in today's NFL. That's why that tight end position has become so prominent in the passing attacks. So you think if he's sitting there and say you move up to 14 and he's sitting there, you take him. I don't think you can pass him by either.
I don't. But on the other hand, he's so good. I say, why would he slide to 14th?
Because of these old linemen.
Why would somebody let him slide to 14? There are going to be 5 players taken in the top 10 who don't turn out to be as good as Brock Bowers.
Absolutely.
And two or three of them might be quarterbacks.
Absolutely. Merrill, I don't like this class except for two guys that I like in this class. And I try to explain this to a lot of folks. I think that's why sitting at 22 and maybe moving back, not up, because I just showed you 21 players are going to be drafted between wide receiver, O-lineman, and quarterbacks. That's why the good players are going to fall. It's not because they're bad. It's because a lot of, look at the Jets. Merrill, if the Jets are smart, you got a 41-year-old quarterback. Is Brock Bowers the answer, or is a left tackle the answer? Because you got to make sure your season's not imploded like it did last year because you don't have enough help for the guy. Joe Douglas is in a position where he's got to go like this. Hey, I got to protect the guy. I'd like the shiny toy. That's why I think some of these guys fall.
Yeah, and then teams sometimes get cute because they say, ooh, we've got him right here. But you know what? He's still going to be here 4 or 5 picks later. Let's move down a couple of notches. That once upon a time happened. Was it the 3rd round or the 4th round where the Eagles wanted to draft Russell Wilson? And they were sure that he would be there in the middle of that round. And of course, as you know, he ended up in Seattle. So they were forced to pick Nick Foles. Now, we know that Nick Foles didn't turn out to be Russell Wilson, but Nick Foles is the single most responsible person or player for the Eagles owning the Lombardi Trophy.
Well, between the Rocky statue and the Foles statue, I think you're kind of I think they're symbolic of one another, don't you, Merrill?
I think Nick is a great guy. I just saw someplace that he won a pickleball championship.
That doesn't shock me. The people in Arizona where my kid goes to school told me that this guy was like a freak athlete out there, and he played basketball and everything. So he was a really great athlete. That doesn't.
He went to the same high school as Drew Brees.
That's crazy. That's crazy great here. Hey, what do you make of? Get this. So A.J. Brown, okay, he now signs, or he's going to. Now they're working on a potential contract extension to try to keep him in the building for the length of whatever time they have together between Devonta and him. What's your take on that? And what's the take? Do you mind some of the drama that he brings?
No, I think he's a good guy. And I think he and Devonta and Jalen all get along. I mean, there's stuff that happens in every locker room, I'm sure. But he is not T.O. He's not that. T.O. destroyed the locker room. That's not AJ. AJ had a sign in his locker last year that everyone made a big deal of. The sign said, "I'm always open." I think there was a little bit of a blink of the eye there and having some fun. But I think he's a good guy, and I think Devontae's a good guy, and I think Jalen's a good guy. It's not a bad locker room, Dan.
In your opinion, who are you more excited to see what he does on what side of the ball, Kellen Moore or Vic Fangio?
Kellen Moore.
Why?
Because I just think he and Jalen are going to be a perfect combination. He will bring the most out of Jalen. Although I'm not minimizing the effect of Vic Fangio either, because he is an outstanding, top quality coach. I just get a little more excited about an offense that I think really underperformed last year and is capable of really blowing away some teams this year if everybody's on the same page. I think they have the talent. I think that Cam Jurgens will move in, and no, he's not going to be Jason Kelsey from day one, but he is a quality NFL center. So I think they're good. Again, the one wild card, and that is with all of this, and it probably has the same effect on all 32 teams. If you lose the wrong three players at the wrong part of the season, anything can happen. Anything can happen. But again, injuries aside, this team shouldn't be a team that finishes the season in the most embarrassing fashion. A team that before our eyes disintegrated from the 12th game on. I mean, they were 10-1 and absolutely fell on their faces for the rest of the season.
A couple last comments here for you. And there's no question tonight, Frank Sinatra / Howie Roseman takes the stage tonight. This is like a big moment for him. And this is what he does. And this is kind of like his time of the year to shine. I mean, right? This is what he likes. This is the stuff that he likes, is team building.
And he generally does it very well.
And, we're going to see what he does. I'll tell you what, Merrill, he has to address, in my opinion, that defensive side of the football. Well, I still think he has to really address that side. And I'm looking at an edge rusher, the kid from Penn State or that kid Latu from UCLA. Or Verse.
Chop Robinson?
Yeah, Chop Robinson. I love the kid. To me, here were my five, Merrill. It's funny you said Brock. That's really great, because I said my five guys were Brock Bowers, Jared Verse, Chop Robinson, Talisi Fuaga, and Teron Arnold. Those were my final five. Well, if the Eagles land on those, I'm good with them.
Let me ask you about another name that has come up, and a player who maybe would be there if they don't move at 22. How about Cooper DeJean?
Iowa has done a great job with Kirk Ferentz up there in producing NFL guys and NFL talent on both the offense. Especially, it's become tight end when you're talking about the Iowa Hawkeyes. And when you watch him on film, at first I wasn't a fan, but when you watch him on film, I'll tell you what he's a lot like. He has a lot of athleticism. He's got great hips. I'll tell you what he does too. He's got a little Darrelle Revis of a technique where he hoards you to the sideline and uses the sideline as another defender. So what he does well is that he may not have the insane speed. He's not slow in any way. He's not slow at all, but he may be the more physical of all the corners that are in this draft.
Now, the corner you didn't mention, and I think the Eagles would love him, but I think he would be too much of a jump to go up and get, is Quinyon Mitchell.
My only problem with him, and by the way, I read the story. He felt loyal to the head coach. He loved the way he was coached. He had numerous nil offers to join, like LSU, Florida. All those schools came calling, and he said no. He did a great job at the Senior Bowl, and he did a great job against Marvin Harrison Jr. My only problem with that, though, is this, just like the Carson Wentz stuff a little bit here, Merrill. So you line up once a year against the best player at that position in the country, and if you're Teron Arnold, you're lining up against Devonta Smith, Jerry Jeudy, all those great wide receivers, Jameson Williams, and you're doing that in practice and in the Southeastern Conference, and you're doing that on a weekly basis.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, when you're in the Mid-America Conference and you're at Toledo and you're lining up against Ohio University, Central Michigan, and Cincinnati, Sauce Gardner came from there, so I get it. But to me, he it's a gamble. Could he be a superstar? His metrics say yes. But again, I like people who have played in major competition.
Dan, did you ever hear of a player, and I know I'm going back 100 years, but a Dick Vermeil #1 draft choice by the name of Roynell Young?
Absolutely. Absolutely. What, was he a UCLA kid?
Alcorn State.
Alcorn State.
And
but Merrill, here's the difference
the
between then and now, though. Because of the transfer portal, these kids at these smaller schools like Darrell Green at Texas A&I, he's not staying there anymore. He's going to Texas A&M because of money now, and the kids are being paid.
Right.
Like, you're not going to find Terry Bradshaw any longer at Louisiana Tech. He's going to be at LSU. So that's why today, back in my time, finding a guy like Darrell Green or finding a guy like a Steve McNair at a different school, that was more of something that you had to do more of your due diligence. All the good players now are going to the places they get paid now. And that's the difference in college football. It's harder now, but it's easier if you're an NFL guy because you know where they are. You're in the SEC and Big Ten.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I mean, I've seen a lot of great corners come through here. One, it's a crime that he's not in the Hall of Fame because he went to 6 Pro Bowls, and that's Eric Allen.
But I still don't get that where you look at Leroy Butler, and I told you, Merrill, I'm on those panels, and when they brought Leroy Butler's name up as a defensive back, I went, that guy's not a Hall of Famer. I go, he was a really good football player, and I'm not taking anything away from him, and it's not FSU Miami bias. All I'm saying is that, hey, he's a good player, but Eric Allen was a game-changing football player.
Absolutely.
On that team. And, I mean, you're talking about one of the better guys in his decade, in his generation. I could make another argument for you, too. Maybe the most overshadowed player in the history of the Eagles in your broadcasting career might be the defensive end that you had on the other side of Reggie. I mean, Clyde Simmons, in my opinion, was one of the great game-changing guys.
Oh, he was.
And when you had Harvey Martin and Ed Jones, Ed was always overshadowed by Randy White and Harvey. I think you got a little bit of that there, too, with Clyde, because Clyde was a hell of a player.
Yeah. Yeah, well, look, I've seen guys come through here that I said, well, they're in the Hall of Fame, and yet they're not, like Bill Bergey. Bill Bergey was a dominating linebacker, a great, great player, and he's not in the Hall of Fame. And my partner in the broadcast booth was as good as any wide receiver out there. Maybe he got hurt and played too few a years. He played 10 years. Mike Quick could just play with anybody.
I'm going to ask you this last question, and I'm going to make it the last question because it's going to be maybe the hardest question I've ever asked. And please do me a favor. Do not run for mayor of Philly with this question here. Mike Quick, if he had to draft a wide receiver, would it be A.J. Brown or Devonta Smith?
Ooh, I hate but see, here's why I'm not trying to be mayor of Philly, because they're both great, but they're different and they're complementary. Devonta Smith is the most amazing body control I've ever seen. Nobody can get his feet in bounds from some of the angles that he conjures up to make it a legitimate catch. And he can stretch and he can contort and do all of those things. A.J. Smith is power personified. He can outbattle anybody for a ball. He is so strong. So I'd love to give you an answer, but I'd have to say both.
I got one more for you then. Wait a minute. You're not getting off the hook. I get one more then.
Okay.
Merrill Reese. If you had 60 minutes of football to win one game, would you take Randall Cunningham if things were even, or Jalen Hurts?
Okay. How about if I answered it this way? Okay. In his third year as a starter, I would have picked Jalen Hurts. In his but I pick him as we're. Did you say Randall Cunningham?
Randall.
Oh, well, you didn't say Donovan McNabb. You said Randall.
No, I didn't say no, because I think Randall's better than McNabb.
Oh no, but that's another story.
No,
No. I love Randall. He's more exciting. He's more exciting than everyone but Patrick Mahomes. More exciting. Buddy Ryan used to say, "Go make 3 great plays a day." Randall was wonderful, but he was never what you would call a student of the game. He let his great natural talent. When did Randall have his greatest year? When?
early.
He was in Minnesota, and
That's
Brian
right.
Jones, offensive coordinator. When was he best here? Before his coordinator or his quarterback coach, Doug Scoville, died suddenly of a heart attack. And then was Randall, Buddy just worried about the defense and said to Randall, make 3 big plays a game. But Jalen Hurts is a student of the game. Jalen Hurts is so dedicated. First person in the locker room. Randall was, he left in the second half of a preseason game to go to Whitney Houston's birthday party. You know that.
I do know that. I have heard that story many times by some of the players that were on that team. So
Jalen Hurts couldn't find his way to that party.
So you gauge all the quarterbacks to McNabb then, right?
McNabb is the best quarterback in modern Eagles history. I don't want to go back to Norm Van Brocklin in 1960, but I'm talking about modern Eagles history. Ron Jaworski was terrific too. But if you look at the record book and all of the completions and touchdowns and this and that, it screams the name Donovan McNabb. Took them to 5 great NFC championship games.
Yeah, he was really. I'll tell you this. I'll let you go on this one here. My uncle, like you said, Norm Van Brocklin. This I told my uncle Andy Robustelli this. He goes like this. He goes. So who do you think is the best quarterback? Well, I started naming all the new guys, and he goes, "What about Johnny Unitas? And what about the Sammy Baugh and them guys?" And I go, "No. That was football when you rolled your helmet up and put it in your back pocket.
Yeah.
Not what we do today." And he used to get so mad.
Well, I can understand that because Johnny Unitas was amazing. But that was a different era because Johnny Unitas was the offensive coordinator. Johnny Unitas called his plays. He directed his players. He ran the huddle. It's a different world today because the plays are shuttled in. It's a totally different responsibility. And that's what, so you can't really compare the Unitases and the Van Brocklins with the guys of today. The guys of today are such amazingly fluid athletes. The way that Jalen Hurts could take off in an instant. But believe me, Jalen Hurts has the ability to just keep getting better and better and better. I really think the world of him.
Who personified Philly more? Concrete, Bednarik, Jason Kelsey? Those 3 men. And Tommy McDonald, those 3 men. Who do you think personified Philly more so with those 3 guys? Tommy McDonald, Chuck Bednarik, or Jason Kelsey?
You see, the world has changed. The world has changed. When he was there, it was certainly Chuck Bednarik. He was Concrete Charlie. He was tough. He was rugged. He didn't smile a whole lot.
No.
Jason Kelsey was great. Jason Kelsey was a tremendous center, but Jason Kelsey was also a great personality. Jason Kelsey would hug you, and everybody loved Jason Kelsey. Chuck Bednarik, he was the guy standing over Frank Gifford with the arms waving. And Tommy McDonald was altogether different because Tommy McDonald could be clobbered, and he would only stay on the ground for 0.8 seconds because he would jump up and look at the defender who hit him and said, "I'm okay. You'd have to hit me harder than that to keep me down." So you're talking about 3 great guys, 2 of whom are in the Hall of Fame. and the third will be in the Hall of Fame just as soon as he's eligible.
When I got introduced to Bednarik through my uncle, he came up, man. I've never shaken a guy's hand who looked like a catcher's mitt. It was this. I mean, he grabbed my hand. He goes, "Come here, kid." And I met him in Jersey at this signing thing. My uncle took me over there. They're all signing Giant guys and Eagle guys because they was talking about the Packers won in the 60 title game. The Giants won the 56 championship game. And he goes, "Here's Chuck Bednarik." I'm like, holy cow. "Come here, kid." Man, that Paul grabbed my hand. I got a pretty big hand too. And this guy grabbed my hand, man. He swallowed. Then he looked at it. He goes, "Pretty big grip." I go, "Is that guy 65 years old?" He goes, "Yeah." I go, "He almost tore my arm off."
Yeah, he wanted to get more involved. Dick Vermeil came in to coach. So Dick Vermeil called him an associate coach and put him on the sideline, except when the Eagles were playing the Cowboys in Dallas. Chuck went after an official and started screaming, got the Eagles a 15-yard penalty, and Chuck never graced the sideline again.
That's the way you end an interview right there. Should be pretty exciting tonight. Merrill, thank you so much. I can't wait to see what the Birds do tonight. 22, do they move up? Do they move down? Do they make a trade?
Probably up.
Probably up, knowing the rock star GM. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Merrill.
Thanks, Dan. Always fun being on with you.
You bet. That is Merrill Reese. I really enjoyed that a lot, man. Absolutely great stuff there. Absolutely. Well, we'll see what they do tonight, man. Finally got connected. Hey, I'm sorry. Hey, Steven. Bednarik is my guy. Man, I used to get that guy on in Tampa, all them Eagle fans down there in Tampa. Don't forget, Philly 500 will join us also at 4:30 Eastern time, and then we'll have Jason give us a national perspective. Man, I can't tell you how many times. I have an old book that had all the phone numbers in it, too. I may still even have Bednarik's cell phone number. No, not but his home phone number back in the day. He was so fun to get on. I told that guy, oh, he was a riot, man. One of my favorite people of all time. All right. I'm going to go through the draft. When we come back out of the timeout, we're going to go through 32 needs on these teams. And we're going to do that. We're going to do it next. Do me a favor. Hit the like button. Don't forget tomorrow, too, by the way, 10 a.m. Eastern. We're going to be doing a show, an hour show, that's going to have some reaction. And tonight, we're going to do some work prior to the Eagles making their pick. If they move up, we'll be on sooner. So stay tuned for that. Only place you can catch Big Sills will be right here on JAKIB Sports. So hit the like button. Keep it here, National Football Show.